Stretching a full city block in Midtown Manhattan, Radio City Music Hall has dazzled audiences since the Great Depression. Its golden arches, sweeping foyers, and world-famous Rockettes have turned it into more than a theater. It's a palace of American entertainment. Presidents, movie stars, and music legends have all passed through its stage doors. But high above that great stage, hidden behind the Art Deco walls, lies something most audiences never knew existed. A private apartment designed in that same lavish style, where Rothafel and his guest once dined beneath 20-foot ceilings of gold leaf. But then, when Roxy died suddenly in 1936, the suite lost its host, and with no one to carry on its role as a private saloon, its doors were sealed and the space fell into neglect. For decades, this secret apartment was locked away and nearly forgotten, even as millions filled the seats below. So how did Radio City, a theater built for the people, come to hide such an unusual secret in its rafters? Stay tuned to find out, as today we uncover the secret apartment of Radio City Music Hall. I'm your host, Ryan Sokash, and you're watching It's History. Let's begin with a little context. To understand the origins of the secret apartment, we need to understand the origins of the greater complex concealing it, the Rockefeller Center. To put it simply, in 1929, John D. Rockefeller Jr. encountered a challenge. You see, he signed a massive lease on a swath of Midtown Manhattan land, originally intended for a new Metropolitan Opera House. But when the stock market collapsed that fall, the opera pulled out, leaving Rockefeller with an empty site in a city sinking into a Great Depression. Though instead of retreating, he just doubled down. Rockefeller envisioned something bigger, a modern complex that would symbolize resilience and optimism in a time of national despair. That vision became the Rockefeller Center. The project brought together powerful partners, such as the Radio Corporation of America, perhaps better known as the parent of NBC and RKO Pictures. This partnership led to both financial backing and cultural influence. And in that spirit, to oversee the entertainment heart of the complex, Rockefeller turned to a well-known figure named Roxy Rothafel, a showman already famous for building America's most glamorous movie palaces. Roxy imagined a theater unlike anything the city had seen before. Enormous, accessible, and thrillingly modern. Architect Edward Durrell Stone and interior designer Donald Desky translated that vision into Art Deco steel and gold, producing a space of sweeping foyers, gleaming murals, and a stage equipped with elevators powerful enough to lift an orchestra. And just like that, Radio City Music Hall opened its doors on December the 27th, 1932, a true palace for the people. So where does the secret apartment fit into everything? Well, to understand that detail, we need to discuss its former occupant. It needs to be emphasized that Roxy was one of the most influential showmen of the early 20th century. By the 1920s, his name became synonymous with spectacle. Perhaps the best example of that was the so-called Cathedral of the Motion Picture in Times Square, the original Roxy Theater, where he pioneered synchronized orchestral scores for silent films and then paired them with live stage shows that blended music and precision dance. The concept was an instant hit, and audiences flocked in to see what he created, whereas the critics hailed him as the man who could turn any theater into an event. Hence, when Radio City Music Hall was planned, his excellent reputation made him the obvious choice to shape its artistic direction. And in recognition of his genius, architect Edward Durrell Stone and designer Donald Desky built him a private apartment high above the stage, known as the Roxy Suite, a space every bit extravagant as the theater below it. The 20-foot ceilings glimmered in gold leaf, and the walls were adorned with velvet drapery and rare woods. Beyond that, a domed dining room was engineered so that even whispers carried effortlessly across the table. There was a raised bedroom, a private office, and a kitchen fit for entertaining, and so on. Esteemed guests such as Alfred Hitchcock and Walt Disney passed through these doors, signing a guest book that remains in existence until today. The suite was accessible by a discreet elevator, providing entrance to a great space above the bustling stage. Legend even suggests that performers and VIPs could slip through a service tunnel that connected Rockefeller Center to the music hall, the kind of secret passage that reinforces its air of exclusivity. For a few short years, Roxy used this suite to host Hollywood royalty and society elites. But that all changed in January of 1936 when Roxy died in his sleep in New York City. A heart attack claimed him at just 53 years old. You see, Roxy had long suffered from cardiac complications. Just 4 years earlier, in the frenzy of the music hall's opening, he had collapsed under strain. Though he didn't even go to the hospital, he tended to the debut while doctors just hovered nearby. Anyhow, he was buried in Queens and is remembered as the man who redefined American theater. And once the world had given its final condolences to the fallen star, something unexpected happened back at Radio City, as that grand apartment lost its purpose, and for the most part, was simply left to neglect. By the following year, the Roxy Suite had receded into urban memory at best. Grand space, once used for private gatherings, remained locked away and nearly vanished from the public imagination. Meanwhile, Radio City Music Hall thrived, and it continued to do so through the war years by hosting things like wartime fundraisers or broadcasts of live shows for nationwide radio audiences. The great stage remained a beacon, while the apartment above lied dormant. In fact, the available public record is so thin that most publications covering the story were left to speculation about its status over the years. For these decades, and to the best of our research, there's no record of the suite being used for anything else. Not a green room, not a hospitality suite, not even storage. Nothing suggests that the furniture was removed. It was simply untouched in pristine Art Deco perfection. A state of affairs that I would speculate were intentional, as the theater faced constant repurposing everywhere else. Dressing rooms were shifted, offices were renovated, and the lobbies were redesigned. And yet, that strange apartment somehow eluded so much change. Then came the 1970s, with the theater's survival itself hanging in the balance. Radio City faced bankruptcy, a decline in attendance, and even considered proposals to convert the space into venues ranging from an aquarium to a shopping mall or tennis courts. However, thanks to immediate public preservation efforts, the theater was saved. And it was only in the wake of that survival, after the theater was landmarked in 1978, that its interiors were restored and the secret apartment was finally rediscovered. Not as a relic to be discarded, but as a time capsule to be celebrated. When the Roxy Suite was finally unlocked in the 1970s, what they found was astonishing. After 4 decades sealed away, the apartment emerged as though time itself had stopped. According to Atlas Obscura, it remained in, quote, pristine condition, with its 20-foot gold leaf ceilings still intact and its rare wood paneling untouched. Whereas other history blogs suggest that the guest book survived. And according to some sources, for those who first stepped back inside, it felt less like a forgotten room and more like a perfectly preserved time capsule of 1930s New York. From that point on, the suite entered a second life. Rather than being remodeled into offices or lounges, it was kept intact and repurposed for exclusive use. Private receptions and industry gatherings began to animate its halls once again, echoing the glamour of the 1930s. That's right, a new generation of celebrities and cultural figures have now replaced the Hollywood names that had once come to sign the book years ago. In time, the Roxy Suite became part of Radio City's mythology, with journalists and the public dubbing it the hidden apartment. Today, the apartment remains preserved and in use, and it can even be rented for high-end events or occasionally visited as a part of Radio City's stage door tour as it's open for special occasions. And finally, some modern-day stars have returned to visit the space. Apparently, Anderson Cooper drank and dined under that same gilded ceiling once reserved for Roxy's inner circle. And that's the story of the secret apartment above the stage in Radio City Music Hall. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Otherwise, until next time, this is Ryan Sokash signing off.